So now let's talk about operators. Operators are symbols that have special functionality and meaning in a programming language. So they let us perform special operations or helpful operations in our program. We have several different types of operators. First, we're going to cover arithmetic operators. Arithmetic operators let us perform exactly that, arithmetic operations, like in mathematics. We have addition, subtraction, multiplication, in this case it's the asterisk, division, the slash, and we also have floor division or integer division, 2 slashes, and we have a very powerful operator called modulo, which returns the remainder of a division. That is very helpful to determine if a value is even or odd. So let's see some examples. If we want to add two numbers, we just need to write the two numbers and the operator in between. Usually, for best practices to improve the readability of our code, we add spaces on both sides of the operator before the operands. These two values are technically called operands. Okay, so let's run the file, run the program, and we see the value 8. 5 plus 3. This is an example of an expression in Python. In programming, we have expressions which evaluate to a particular value, like in this case 5 plus 3, evaluated to the value 8. An expression is a combination of values and operators, and that results in a particular value. And we also have statements, which are instructions or actions to be performed. So those are like the two broad categories of things that you can find in a programming language. When we work with operators, usually we are working with expressions. The plus operator is kind of special because you can use it for more than just mathematical operations. You can also use it to combine or concatenate strings. If we write two strings and we want to combine them or concatenate them, we can just use the plus operator. Let's see. Let's save the file and run the program again, and now we see the two strings combined. But there is something very peculiar that we don't have a space in between. So we can add it separately right here. And we get the string with the words separated by a space. You can also store this final string in a variable. You can also work with the minus operator. This is more in the conventional mathematical way. That would be 2. The multiplication operator, that would be 15. The division operator, that would result in a decimal value. And that decimal value will be an approximation. 5 divided by 3. Like you can see right here, we have a finite number of decimals. So the last one is the result of rounding. And that can cause what we know as the floating point error. It is an error that is accumulated because decimal values are approximations of the real mathematical values, because we have to represent them somehow in the computer, and we have limited space to represent them. So that is when the rounding error accumulates, and that's something that we have to be aware of, that when we're working with floats in programming, we are not actually working with the exact values. We are working with approximations. Great, if we use a double bar, let's delete this and just keep the first line. Let's see what happens. 1. Okay, instead of getting this result with the decimal values, the double slash, also called integer division or floor division, truncates the decimal part, so we only get the integer part, 1, if we are working with two integers. And finally, the modulo operator is the percentage symbol. This returns the remainder from dividing 5 by 3. In this case, it would be 2. 5 divided by 5, the remainder would be 0. 10 divided by 5, the remainder would be 0. Modulo is really helpful to determine if a value is even or not. If the value is evenly divisible by 2, so if the modulo is 0, then it is even. But if the result is 1, then it's not evenly divisible by 2, so it's odd. Awesome! Those are the arithmetic operators. Now, let's kill the terminal, and now let's go to comparison operators. Comparison operators let us compare different values. So we are talking about comparisons like greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and not equal to. These are the comparison operators that we can use in Python. Remember, the exclamation mark and the equal sign is not equal to. So let's test this. Is 5 greater than 4? 5 is greater than 4, so the result was true. When we use comparison operators, the result will be a Boolean value, because the expression will evaluate to a Boolean value. We want to know if this is true or false, so the result will be either true or false. We can check if 5 is greater than or equal to 4. That is true as well. We can check if 5 is less than 4. Let me split this. 5 is less than 4. That is false, because 5 is not less than 4. Less than or equal to 4. False. Equal to 4. That is false. Is 5 equal to 5? Yes, it is. Is 5 not equal to 5? That is false. So that's basically the comparison operators. It's very important to know the difference between this and this. There's a very slight difference, but it's very, very important when you use it in practical applications in your code. If you use this operator and the two values are equal, then the result will be false. Because we're asking if this value is strictly less than this value. But if we add the equal sign, then we're asking if this value is less than or equal to this value. So that is like more open, more flexible. And it is true. So that can be the difference between having the correct code and a very serious bug. As a tip, the word bug is used in programming to refer to an error in the logic of your code. Okay, so if you ever hear the word bug, you know that it is talking about a problem with the code, an error that has to be fixed. The code works, but it doesn't do exactly what it's intended to do. So that is a bug. So now you know about comparison operators. Let's go to logical operators. Logical operators let us connect different truth values or determine if a condition is true or false. These operators are AND, OR, and NOT, and they have different truth tables. So let's see this practically in our code. Right now we're talking about the AND operator. I'm working directly with the truth values because in logic we have something called a truth table. A truth table is a table that lets us know when is going to be true or false. If we join two different conditions or two different expressions and they are both true, the entire expression will be true. If either one of them or both are false, then the entire expression will be false. Let's see the result and see if this initial intuition matches. Exactly what we got right here. The AND operator. True, false, false, and false. In practice, what we would usually write is the conditions that we are testing, that we are checking. For example, let's say that I have two variables, x equal 4 and y equal 2. Let's check if x is greater than 2 and y is less than 2. We can think of it like the coordinates of a player in a game. Let's say that we're developing a game. And we have the x coordinate, the horizontal coordinate, and we have the y coordinate, which is the vertical coordinate. Right here we have two conditions that we are checking. We're checking if x is greater than 2, and we're checking if y is less than 2. If those two conditions are true at the same time, and we connect them with the AND operator, then this entire expression will be true. This will be like the process behind the scenes. We take the entire expression, this is true, then this is true, and finally, since we know that true and true is true, this will be the final result. The truth values and conditions will be particularly helpful when we reach the part on conditionals. Conditionals are structures in our code that let us do certain things based on whether a condition is true or false. So we can create very powerful programs based on the state of our variables and the values of our variables in our code. For the OR operator, if either one of them is true, then the result will be true. The expression will evaluate to true. Let's see. Now, if we have x greater than 2, and this condition is true because we know that x is equal to 4, we know that this condition is true. So, the entire expression will evaluate to true. You can see it right here. Awesome. With the OR operator, if either one of them is true, then the result will be true. Let's test this in our code with the truth values like we did before. True or true, true or false, false or true, false or false. This will be true, and only when the two conditions are false, this will be false. So let's run our program and we see that this matches exactly what we have predicted right here. Okay, so you can always search for the truth tables of these logical operators. They're very helpful. And the NOT operator is even simpler because it basically reverses the truth value. Not true is false and not false is true, like this. It's basically reversing the truth value that we got here. If we have x greater than 4 and we define x equal to 6, x is greater than 4 because it's 6. So this is true. You can see it more clearly, I think, if we add another set of parentheses. This will be not true, so it will be false. And with the same logic, we have not x less than 4. Not false is true. So that's basically how not works. It reverses the truth value. Awesome. And finally, we also have what we call assignment operators. Assignment operators let us assign a particular value to a variable. So far, we have been using the most basic assignment operator that we can use, the equal sign. One equal sign will assign the value to the variable. Just as a tip, it's very important to know the difference between one equal sign and two equal signs. This is a comparison operator, and this is an assignment operator. Only one equal sign tries to assign this value to this variable, but if we add two equal signs, then we are trying to compare the value of the variable with this value. So you have to be very careful and know exactly which one you want to use in which scenarios. So that's the most basic operator that we can use for assignment. But if we want to perform an operation before we actually assign the value to the variable, we can use what we call as compound assignment operators. If we define the variable with an initial value of 5, we can take the value, add 2 to the value, and then assign it to the variable. Initially, this may not be so intuitive, so let's break it down and see what it actually does. This is equivalent to this. We take the current value of the variable, which is 5, in this case, we add 2 to it, and then we assign that result, which would be 7, to the same variable again. We're basically updating the value based on its previous value. We take the value 5, its current value on this line, we update it by adding 2 to it, and then we assign it again to the same variable. So instead of writing this, which is much more elaborate, less compact, we can write it like this. We just take the operator and we write it before the equal sign. And that will take the current value, increment it or do the operation that we have right here with the value 2, and then assign it to the same variable. We can do that with addition, multiplication, subtraction, all the operators that you saw in the previous part of operators. So let's see what we get. Here we have the value 5. And here we should have the value 7. Let's see. Let's kill the terminal and start again. And voila, right here we see the value 5 and the value 7, exactly what we anticipated, based on this operator. But this is not the only compound assignment operator. It depends on the operation that you want to perform with your value. You can subtract 2, you can multiply by 2, you can divide by 2 before assigning the result again. You can perform all the arithmetic operations that we saw previously before assigning it to the variable again. And that's awesome. It's a really great way to write more compact and powerful code with assignment operators. Great, now you know how to work with the different operators that you can work with in Python. There are other types of operators, but they are used less frequently. These are the most frequently used operators that you will need to work with Python. In the next video, we will talk a little bit more about comments in Python, and then we will start diving into more advanced concepts and data types. So, let's continue.